Hey, I'm Nandini and I'm back with a new episode of 13 Columnists in India series. Today I have with me Mrs. Amarjeet who is the General Secretary of AITUC, All India Trade Unions Congress. Thank you so much, ma'am, for this. Now, first of all, the first question is, what is AITUC, what does it do, and how is it different from other trade union congresses like CITU, and how are they different? This is for all the people who want to know how they could get associated and what exactly does this work.
All India Trade Union Congress is a first central trade union organized in India. It was founded in 1920 and the conference happened in Bombay, and all the unions of organized and unorganized sector, they were called to gather there, and the foundation conference held there with founding president as great freedom fighter Lala Lajpat Rai. The preparations for this congress were initiated by Kaur, another great freedom fighter. But before the conference could be held, he demised, and that's how the Trade Committee chairperson, he was chairperson, so in his place then in his place of chairperson. So this is how the foundation of AITUC. But foundation of AITUC doesn't begin there. AITUC is the central trade union organization having trade unions of different sectors and trades. So those unions started getting formed from 1870 in India. Before 1870, the trade unions were not organized sectoral based and trade union based. Efforts of some philanthropists was to do something good to the workers. So caste-based or just social welfare based, some formations were taking place. But from 1870 onwards, the unions started getting formed, which you see it today in the present form. They are based on the trade in which they are, or they are based on the work in which they are. So it is based on that. Our struggle of Indian workers began even when they did not know what union is. See, the first strike recorded in Indian history is 1827. There were no unions, but the workers went on strike. But they were working for so many hours, and for many days they will not be even paid. So the workers first of all came out to protest. They themselves were not knowing that the action which they are taking in future will be called as strike. So this is how the workers responded. So the workers came up on the streets, wanted to demand their wages, and later on we find that in 60s the working hours should be less. This demand also started in India as it was starting in all over the world. And the first action we see the worldwide is in 1886 when in Chicago the workers came out on streets and said that you are not listening to us. So from today we decide out of 24 hours, 8 hours are for work, 8 hours for rest and 8 hours for our family. We will not work more than 8 hours. That is how the doctors were also telling that the maximum output will from a body how much you can have it. So from that struggle began all over the world, but in Chicago on 1st May 1886, the agitation began. After 4 days, some miscreants created some bomb visport there, and the result was some people got injured. 8 leaders were arrested. Out of 8 leaders, 2 leaders were hanged to death, 2 died in jail, and the rest spent jail term. 4 were hanged, 2 spent jail term, and 2 died in the jail. So then that became the day when the workers were on streets, they were killed, their blood split on the street, and the red flag was brought. This is how when you see on May Day, workers take out rallies with the red flag. So the red flag symbolizes the workers' rights agitation beginning and saying that our rights should be protected. That is how the worldwide this labor movement picked up. Rather, I should claim that it is the labor movement which brought a discourse of human rights in human civilization. Because they said we workers are humans, we are not animals. You are taking work from animals, giving them little food, grains. Next day again you take work. But we are creative beings. You cannot treat like this with us. So this human rights discourse was begun by the labor movement in the whole world. So in India also this movement picked up, and so the unions were being formed. In 20th century more unions were formed. Strike after strike was happening in the industries, and with one step forward, slowly they were moving. India got in 1881 Factories Act also. So several changes were brought due to strikes in that Factory Act also. Then in 1920, when this first conference happened in the National Center, first National Center of Indian Labour Movement, the AITUC was formed in 1920. After that, in 1922, the AITUC succeeded in having Mines Act. In 1923, AITUC succeeded in having Workplace Compensation Act, Maintenance and Compensation Act. And in 1926, AITUC, through its struggle, succeeded in having legalization of trade unions. Trade unions were not considered to be legal before that. So the workers will fight and they will have jail terms, or they will have lathi charge, or they will have killings through firing. But ultimately in 1926, a Trade Union Act was adopted in India. So Trade Union Act is named Trade Union Act 1926 because it was adopted in 1926. It was enacted at that time. So the trade unions became legal. Under AITUC umbrella, which was the only central trade union in India till 1947, the workers fought for Indian freedom movement. So the workers were doing double role. They were fighting for their own rights, protection of their work, their wages, their social security, their workplace safety, some future social security. They were fighting for their demands. Simultaneously, they were participating in various calls of the freedom movement. So all the calls from the freedom movement platform were being participated by the workers. So there was a very good bond between the freedom movement leadership and the trade union leadership, and we find several of the political leaders wanting to come closer to the trade union movement. For example, as I told you, Balgandhar Tilak prepared for that conference. Then Lala Lajpat Rai, himself a political leader, he became former president. In 1928, AITUC president was Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Then in his leadership, Simon Commission Go Back slogan was given. So that slogan came from political platform also, that slogan came from trade union platform also. Then in 1929, we find that Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was president of AITUC. So then in 1939, we find V.V. Giri was president of the AITUC. C.R. Das or Sarojini Naidu and all the great leaders, you can take their names, who is who, you will find that they felt like being with the labor movement. Because vast majority of population who is in the work situation, which produces wealth, which goes into mining, in excavation, in manufacturing, in rural India, in urban India, they are the wealth producers and service givers. So naturally, this was recognized by the freedom movement leaders also. So trade union played a very significant role in the freedom movement. Then AITUC was the first to demand a constituent assembly. When the Britishers said that you can have some laws for your own governments also to be there, but they want to continue and under them there should be. So AITUC was the first to tell the political leadership of the country that look, we passed a resolution in 1921. This also credit to the working class of India. In 1921, in our second conference, which was held in Jharia, the first one in Bombay, second in Jharia, a coal belt. In that conference, we adopted a resolution of complete independence, Sampurna Swaraj. No political platform had till that time adopted that. The AITUC adopted it. And not only adopted, every year, wherever that political platform in the name of INC, wherever they were having every year conference, AITUC mobilized workers, went there and asked them, when are you going to pass a resolution for complete independence? We have not to take some things from the Britishers and they keep ruling us. We want complete independence of our country. So this came from the trade unions. Ultimately, in 1928, when the session was being held in Calcutta, there 50,000 workers and farmers reached, demanding the same thing. Gandhiji came out and he said that yes, we understand it is your demand for so many years. Give us 1 year more, next year we will adopt. Netaji Subhash Chandra was busy in that as a host for that conference. So next year in 1929, ultimately, this complete independence resolution was adopted by the political platform for freedom movement of this country. So it's not a trade union, some union of workers saying Zindabad, Murdabad, going to streets or having some strike, as it was some of the anti-working class political personalities speak that as if trade unions are innocent. It's not so. It's the trade unions fighting for the rights of the workers who produce wealth, who make developments of the country, who create infrastructure. They fight for them. It's not asking for it's not for begging. It's for your rights. So that is how the role of trade union comes into it. And after 47, some other central trade unions came up. Like in 47, INTUC was formed. In 48, Indian Mazdoor Sabha was formed. Then in 55, Bharati Mazdoor Sangh was formed on initiative of RSS. Then TUCC and UTUC, having allegiance with the Forward Bloc and Missionary Socialist Party, they also working. In 1970, CITU was formed. Then in 80s, AICCTU was formed. Then Tata Samant played role in forming Shiv Sena Trade Union. Then Mamata Banerjee broke from Indian National Congress, formed her PNC. She also made a dent in INTEC and she formed her trade union. Then DMK has their own national trade union, NPF. So like this in India, you have 12 central trade unions as per recognition by central government. And the AITUC being the mother organization of all. Those who took inspiration from AITUC from different sectors, they organized unions within their sector. So every sector, the federations are there, associations are there. So they took inspiration from the mother trade union and they started. Like banks unions are very great, very big. In 1946 it was formed. But the founders were who? They took inspiration from AITUC, fought within their banks for the rights of bankers, and then they ultimately founded the union. So that was true of all various sectoral unions which came into being in India. They took inspiration from their mother organization, AITUC. So today AITUC is present in almost all the sectors. All formal sector, central government employees, state government employees in the public sector, and then in the whole unorganized sectors, factory-based or otherwise you see BD workers are there, construction workers are there, hawkers and vendors are there, e-rickshaw pullers are there, cycle rickshaw are there, auto rickshaws are there, taxi drivers are there, the small shopkeepers, people work from those shops. Every sector is represented in the trade unions, formal as well as informal, organized as well as unorganized. So it's a great organization I'm working with, and I get all the support from our trade unions and the workers from below. And youngsters like you come and ask us what we are doing. So that further becomes encouragement that youth of India wants to know and wants to inform others what the trade unions are doing.
How does a worker get associated with AITUC? Does it need to be a member of a trade union, or can it get membership that
The process of getting affiliated to AITUC is that the workers form their unions as a base unit. If they are in factory, in their factory, or if they are in a particular sector named with, for example, Motor Vendors Federation, for example, the Ready Patikalas, or for example, Auto Rickshaw Union. So first of all, the workers have to form a union as per Trade Union Act, and they have to register their union with the registrar of the trade union. And then it is that union which is formed, those workers in their general body meeting take a decision with whom they want affiliation. With AITUC or with C2 or AICCTU or INTUC or HMS, with whom they want. They will take a decision in their general body meeting. It's not a direct membership. In an industry or in a factory or in a sector, if any worker is not a member of that particular union which has been formed, that worker will apply to that union and will become member. But the workers have to become member in those unions. And those unions then take the affiliations with whichever central trade union they want. So in AITUC, we have formed our state chapters also now. So any union formed in a particular state applies as per procedure, as per application for affiliation to AITUC. And when they apply for affiliation, then the state chapter of our AITUC sends the recommendation to center. And then the center accepts the affiliation. So this is AITUC headquarters. So we are supposed to receive applications from our states. So this is how it is. So the worker has to basically become member of the union where he works or she works, or has to workers to get together. If there is no union in that particular sector, in that factory or in that industry or that institution, then a collective of workers can form a union, give a name, form its bylaws, and then go for registration. That will be the process. This is how the unions are formed.
Now, recently on 9th of July, there was an all India level run that was conducted by 11 trade unions of 11 trade union congresses all over India. So now, how does AITUC connect with other trade union congresses across the country? Or do you work in India? How does it work?
You see, we always felt that the trade unions should not have fragmented. It was always better if the trade unions would have been sector-wise, one industry, one union. That will always help workers. But in history it has happened, there are different central trade unions. And all fighting for the rights of workers, you see, under their banner. But a stage came when it was being realized by all the unions that you cannot win the battles if you are fighting alone singly. You have to take up the cause of your unions. That you will do as independently. But there are uniting factors where you all have to come together and fight together. For example, when the whole issue of privatization of public sector came, whole issue of outsourcing of all the jobs and no regular recruitments happening, then whole issue of changes in the labor laws which are required to workers, but instead of workers' interests which are supposed to be being changed in favor of employers. Or a question comes when you are fighting for wage increase, you are fighting for the issue of social security. Very few workers are covered in social security, many workers are not covered in social security. I give you example. For example, maternity benefit. Out of total women workforce, hardly 7% women are covered. as per existing laws. Rest of the women don't have any maternity benefit. Then unions have to fight for some methodology and ways that they get maternity. Why a woman who is self-employed should not get maternity benefit? Doesn't she have need when she wants to go for delivery? But she needs holidays and she wants to be with the child for some months. So she needs her holidays, and during that period she wants money in her hand. So there are several issues on which singly fighting will not help. So unions should come together. In India, Indian Labour Conference system was developed that labour departments, the government, employers organizations and the trade unions together. They will sit in Indian Labour Conference, tripartite. Like International Labour Organization is a tripartite mechanism internationally. But this ILC deals with those issues which become our common issues where we clinch and all. But then we also found that many things being recommended by ILC, governments don't follow. So the efforts were begun that we trade unions should see to it we collectively fight. First, this experiment began sector-wise. So, for example, unions in banks or in insurance or in coal sector or in steel sector or in copper or in oil, all these unions, several unions in one sector. So first of all the effort was made that they should take up their coal issues unitedly. And that experiment was seen to be succeeding. That in their sector they are able to press all their issues. And like in banks also they found a united forum of bank unions. This is how they came out. So that made us to understand more clearly that at central trade unions level, where all of us represent vast majority of sectors, if sector-wise we can be together to push our points, then different sectoral unions represented by the central trade unions, why can't we be together? So that process was begun. So first time we came together in 2010 and we formed a united platform. And from then onwards, strike actions, processions, parliament march, making agenda, fighting with the government, submitting our memorandum, we started united. This is how we began. And in that process, up till Narendra Modi had not come into power as Prime Minister, PMS was with us. Even he is coming to power for about 1 year, they were with us. But when we went for a strike action, they said we don't want strike action against government. So from that time onwards, BMS is not part of our platform. But the rest of the 10 central trade unions are with us. This 11th one is not with us, and 12th one doesn't matter much. They were never part of our united front. So this we meet time to time and discuss our agenda. Common agreed demands we take up, and on the basis of that we design our agitations, including the strike actions. And since this farmers' agitation began on the borders of Delhi, we trade unions extended our support, they extended their support, and
Now my next question is, the current government has an inclination towards privatization, which should be there. Now, obviously, there is a word against privatization. But even before that, when we look at how contractor system is structured, even if we go to public sector enterprises, the labor over there is taken to contractor system, so private contractor hires labor for these public sector enterprises. Definitely, when privatization of banks and other things, that's another level of concern. So how do you feel this privatization impact the right of workers and the government? And what do you feel? How does it impact
you see, there are two ways of contracting that. One is direct with the government institutions, they directly contract people, or if it is a public sector, they directly contract. Then the principal employer is responsible. Another is they totally outsource a particular. For example, in Delhi University, as a student there, till that time, all the money and security guard or the Muslim mess people and the cleaning staff, they all were employees of the university. But when this whole outsourcing process happened in hospitals or in universities or government institutions, even in the courts, high courts or Supreme Court, everywhere certain works are totally outsourced. That means they are given to contractors. Contractors engage labor. They take money as per law, but they don't pass on that money to them. This exploitation happens. So we fought for having and this was happening. It's not that it was a new thing, it was happening all along. To stop the exploitation of these contract workers, we fought for a law. So, a Contract Workers Prohibition and Regularization Act came into being. According to that act, if it is a perennial nature of the job, means it is in continuum, it is not suddenly for 2 months or 3 months or 6 months. This is the work which is for that institution, for that factory, for that outfit, it's a regular work. So you will not contract on that. You will regularly employ. A regular employee has all the benefits. You will get all the proper wages, you will get clearance allowance, you will get social security, you will get medical leave, you will get casual leave, all the benefits which contract worker doesn't have. That is why we fought. Either payment of equal pay and equal work also is not given to the contract worker. Even if you are doing the same work which a regular employee is doing. If regular employee is earning 75,000, you are being hired for the same work for more than that working hours, or maybe 20-25,000. It may be one third, one third. So keeping all those things in mind, we fought for that act to come. So that act said that brilliant nature of job you will not contract. And all those who are already on contract, slowly and slowly they should be absorbed as regular employees. And in future you should stop contracting them instead of giving them job, regular job. You contract them, stop doing it. And also, if you are in the same qualification and same job profile, there should be equal pay for equal work. So that was also within that law. We got that law. We fought certain cases, our predecessors fought certain cases, and so many judgments came from Supreme Court. But the governments or the public sector or the government department, they shall to implement it. So the workers or the unions have to continuously remain in force, fighting on those issues. So that is one thing happening. And second thing is that you cannot control the working hours. Even though law says 8 hours, contractor will likely to take more hours of work, but not paying them for the extra hours. When you are a regular employee, you are for 8 hours, and if you are asked to do extra hours of work, you are paid double. For 1 hour's rupees, suppose for 1 hour you have to pay 10. If that 1 hour you spend after 8 hours, you will be paid for that 1 hour 20 rupees. It's double the payment. Which for contract workers, that benefit is not there. So that is how the trade unions were fighting for their working hours, for overtime, for their social security, for all the benefits they were fighting. So if in the government departments, what is happening now is that in the government department and in the public sector, the vacancies which have been sanctioned, which are already sanctioned, those vacancies are lying, posts are lying vacant. Government for last for all these years, more than 10 years, has not been recruiting people. So if you do not recruit against a particular sanctioned post, then that sanctioned post itself falls. That will no more exist on the paper. So in this manner, the government jobs and the public sector jobs for educated youth of our country are shrinking. So from 60 lakh jobs, now only about 13 to 14 lakh jobs remain because rest of the jobs have been the seats were not filled. That is what has happened slowly. About 13-14 lakh in public sector and about 15-16 lakh in the government sector remain. Out of those which were there 10 years ago, about 60 lakh sanctioned. So they are not filling even sanctioned posts, what to talk of new jobs. No new recruitments happening because the already posts created also there. Now these posts ultimately are lapsing and the government plans to fully finish it. Another thing what they have started, the latest tactics is, they say that we will not have workforce. We will give them officer designation. As soon as you give officer designation, you cannot be covered under trade union. So you can't form union. You can't fight for your rights. Officers are not supposed to form unions under trade union. Okay. For example, these Vodafone boys, when they were working, one day they came to our office and they said that we want to form union. So we told them what is the union procedure, how we are supposed to have GB meeting, framing rule, etc. etc. Once everything we explained, we said that what are your designations? They said they call us executives. So executive means you are officer cadre, they have given you designation. Yes, said you can't form unions. So now what we are finding now in some of the sectors, the government is upgrading all the workforce to officer cadre so that the unions form. And the government says now we will not recruit workforce, we will recruit new persons with the officer designation, but we will take work from them of workers as well as officers. So this is new method of not letting the people have their unions and fight for themselves. Now, as far as this government is concerned, they never believed in public sector. They never believed in public services. In 1965, 55, 56, when the debate took place in India, that our natural resources, excavation has to happen. On the basis of natural resources, we will go into manufacturing also. It should be, infrastructure should also be developed under the public sector. So the public services should be responsibility of the government. So the government should spend and these public services should be provided to the people. So public sector and public services, government should intervene strongly. At that time, their earlier name was Bharatiya Janata Party. This Bharatiya Janata Party is the earlier Bharatiya Janata Party. Their leaders inside parliament totally opposed to this concept. And they said the government has no reasons to do business. Means government should not have public services, government should not have public sector. So no need for government to intervene it. Government should have elected people, should have army, should have police, should have foreign policy, external affairs ministry, etc. Nothing else. Everything should be left to markets. So I am not surprised if Mr. Narendra Modi government after coming to power is step by step killing our public services and killing our public sector and throwing everything into private. Closing down even government schools. Weakening our public hospitals. They have killed our industry which produces cheap medicines. Now we have to depend on private sector and that too on foreign companies. So health is becoming a difficult thing. Every year almost 6% families go into indebtedness because of health reasons. They are not able to spend that much money of the ailment. So they are taking loans and they are becoming indebted. Even child labor is increasing in the families. Because if you don't have anything, you send your child for doing work to somebody. Because you want money. You mortgage them. This all is happening in this country. The government cannot deny it is happening down here. So whatever positive achievements we had in the initial years after public sector formation, having public sector and public infrastructure and public services, India has advanced in a big way. We were not producing even a single, sui jo hoti hai, needle, for stitching. And today we produce everything. including aeroplanes or trains or their bogies or their engines or buses or the trucks. What is there which we don't make? We make everything now. This all could be possible because we could have public sector in excavation, in mining area, and have public sector in the manufacturing, have public sector in the infrastructure creation. How Pakistan is left behind and how we could advance? We could advance because of these policies and having a planning commission. So this government never believed in planning commission. They were very much opposed to planning commission from the very beginning. So first thing, Narendra Modi government came into power, they wound up planning commission and they formed Niti Aayog. And Niti Aayog is mainly the corporate, pro-corporate people sitting over there who are suggesting how to close the public sector, how to promote private sector and the corporates. This is how. I am not saying that the private sector should not be there. There has been private sector always. But in certain key areas, in strategic areas, government has to intervene and have a public sector. Similarly, the public services which the people need, they need education, they need health, they need electricity, they need the basics, sanitation in their areas, clean drinking water. That has to be responsibility of the government. Those who are rich and affluent, they want to buy Bisleri, let them buy it. Who stops them? Have a latest gadgets of aqua guards or anything, who stops them? But common man cannot afford. वो तो खाना नहीं खाने के लिए पूरा उनको कमाई है. They can't even eat 3 times a day. So that poverty is too much. And I am telling from the government figures, 95% of the families in India, mind it, families of India, live at the total earning of the family 10,000 per month for whole of family. Can they afford to have education or the healthcare? They cannot afford if they have to go to private sector. So we are nothing against the private hospitals, but we are all for our government hospitals, our government dispensaries, our government drug producing industries, because that will only ensure cheap health. Our government highly technical institutes to train, because even middle class are finding it difficult to get their children educated and trained in even in the higher education. They are finding. What will happen to the poor worker? It will not happen. So we think that this government is out and out against poor, against workers, against farmers. They are after their land to be taken and handed over to corporate sector. And they are among all the corporate sector, their loving friends are only Adani and Ambani. The maximum benefits they are giving to these two. And it is, I will call it as a crony capitalism. When you are even among the corporates, you are choosing 2-3 of your friends who are getting the maximum benefits from your policies. So this government is against public sector, against public services, and it is not only a question of policy. It is a question that India's sovereignty will be under threat, India's self-reliance will be under threat, and Indian corporates in alliance with the foreign corporates in collaboration going ahead, and international finance capital becoming more strong, using the Indian private corporate houses and then trying to dominate our markets. This will go against India's economy and India's independence. We accuse the government not only being anti-worker and anti-farmers, or anti-students or anti-youth, they are not giving jobs to the youth, or anti-women, they don't care for women's security and safety or the lip services done. We accuse them being anti-national also. And we don't shy of speaking this openly. And we tell this government, we fought for India's freedom, we fought for Indian constitution, they are putting constitution into jeopardy. They are trying to finish the unity of our masses. They don't want to listen to what the people are saying unitedly and fighting. They want them to be divided as Hindus or Muslims, as Hindus or Sikhs, as Hindus or Christians. This dirty game is going on in this country. And this will be very damaging for the progressive movements of this country. It will hamper our Indian constitution also. So we are defenders of Indian constitution. We are defenders of workers' right. There is no contradiction in both the things.
Ma'am, one of the very controversial policies of the government which we're talking about the government is the new labor code, the core labor code.
Yes.
So how do you think that is going to impact the labor?
It will impact in a very big way because the labor codes, the way they are designed, will take away all the rights which we got in a battle of 150 years. It's not a small battle. I told you from 19th century, the unions started becoming, and that is from where we started beginning with working hours issue and gathering arguments. And the first convention of International Labour Organization was of 8 hours. So it was a battle from that period of 19th century up to 1919 when ILO was formed. Then ultimately the world over workers got 8 hours working day. These labour codes will take away our 8 hours working day. I told you our Indian workers began with strike when they even did not know what they are doing is strike. There were no unions. But these labour codes will take away practically our right to strike. We fought for whole definitions of minimum wage and the question of wage. We had Minimum Wages Act, we had Payment of Minimum Wages Act. Under these acts, we can sue the employers if they fail to pay minimum wages. But now they have amalgamated all these laws and they are finishing the schedule which tells which are the sectors who should be covered under minimum wages. It's 2,600 something works are listed there for which our worker is entitled for minimum wage. Okay, now they are finishing of that schedule. And they say everybody will get minimum wage. No need for schedule. But then you are subsuming and cancelling Payment of Wages Act and Minimum Wages Act. The acts which help unions to get justice to the worker. So that area will become very grey and difficult area for workers. Then this occupational safety, you already know how many accidents happen, how the workers lose their lives. And later on you come to know that factory was not having even proper license. It was illegal factory and the workers died. Then whom do you catch hold of? They will take law into courts and they will only put the Malik into jail. But what about the workers who died and their families? Nothing happened. But now this occupational safety health code, they are saying 10 and above. It will be applicable to any institution which is 10 and above. So government by design is leaving the issue of occupational safety health of all the unorganized sector workers, which are more than 90% of the total labor force. Then if you add all those who will not be covered under Factory Act and not registered and below 10 workers they are having, if you add them also, then almost 94-95% workforce of India will be out of occupational safety health code. So our workers should be allowed to die. Most of the tedious work and the difficult hazardous works are going on in contract labor. And they are changing the Contract Labor Act. They are saying if a contractor has to take a license, earlier it was if you supply 20 and more workers, you have to have a license. And if you have license, you have to apply all the labor laws to that workforce. And you have to pay the minimum wages to them and you have to pay their provident fund also for their future security. And you have to obey with the working hours, etc. Everything. But now they are changing it through these labor codes. Not 20 is the threshold for taking lessons by the contractor. They are raising it to 50. So if you are supplying 49 workers and you are exploiting and not accepting the law of the land, nobody can question you because you are not registered, you have not taken license. All the workers you are supplying, you may be taking 10 hours, 12 hours or 15 hours work and not paying their PPF or anything. So if I one by one if I tell you, for example, all our migrant workers suffered during Corona period. They walked miles and miles. Some of them died on railway tracks, on roads. Many of them could not return back. Many who returned, they did not get that job. It happened without that. So we told the government, you have an interstate migrant act that should be strengthened. Supplying state and receiving state, there should be responsibility which is written in the law, should be implemented and strengthen these clauses and have a national policy on migrant workers. Almost 23 crore workforce is migrant in our country. So government should do something. But what they have done, they did not bring the national policy on migrant workers. Rather, they picked up that interstate migrant act and put it into, dumped into occupational safety health code. And out of all the clauses, only 6 clauses are brought here, rest of the clauses are left there. We were demanding strengthen the law in favor of migrant workers. The government has rather even finished whatever interstate migrant act was there. So the intentions of the government is very open and clear, and they are not hiding. They say for ease of doing business, we are bringing these labor codes. And they did not follow the process in the country. For any change in any labor law or for having a new labor law, you are supposed to talk to the stakeholders. We were the stakeholders, labor. And trade unions on behalf of labor were supposed to be consulted, which was always a procedure in this country. But this government never consulted us while framing these codes. Neither conducted Indian Labour Conference for all the 3 partners to sit to make these codes. Government on its own hired some people, made the code and put on the website. When on the website we saw it is very bad, we sent our suggestions and we said you call Indian Labour Conference and discuss there. The government did not listen. And then they went ahead with the labour code, this wage code in 2019. Not only that, the threshold they brought down was for floor level wage is 176 per day. That means wherever minimum wage is much more than this, even there, if you don't pay as per those minimum wage and you pay 176 is the threshold there for floor level, if you pay 177, no law can catch hold of you. How can anybody live on that per day income? So that was done and we opposed it. The Parliamentary Standing Committee, whatever suggestions we gave were put into just dustbin. No suggestions were taken on board. Then 3 labour codes they brought during Corona period. They knew we can't go for agitations, even though we went out. Cases were filed against us and we had to fight back those cases. So these codes were very stealthily stabbing in the back to the trade unions. All these 4 laws, in industrial code what they have done is that in the Factory Act, if you are working in a factory with electricity, power, so 10 workers and above, you will have to register your unit. If you are working without power, 20 workers and above, you will have to register your unit. Once you register with the Labour Department, then you have to follow all the labour laws. Then only worker is protected and unions can fight for that. They are increasing the threshold. If you are working with power, from 10 they have made it 20. If you are working without power, from 20 they have brought it to 50. That means many of the factories which are covered today by law will no more be covered once this threshold is increased. So they are not benefiting workers. These labour codes will kill whatever rights the workers have. Then the bigger units, how if any unit 100 and above is employed, if you want to close that unit and you want to sack the workers, you are supposed to take permission from relevant ministry or the relevant labour department. Now, and without that, you can't touch that industry, close that industry or remove the workers. Now they are increasing the threshold through these labour codes from 100 to 300. What does that mean? All those units which have 300 and more and all those who are below 300, if you look at that, those who will be below 300, almost 70% units out of the total. They will be out of law, purview of law. These are the very, very serious objections which we are having. They are changing the system of how to register a union. In the Trade Union Act, they are subsuming, and the new things which they are putting in Labour Code will weaken the whole situation. Registration will become difficult. They are increasing threshold there also. Deregistration of a union being made easy. Recognition of a union most difficult. Derecognition of union very easy. The powers for us to go to High Court being snatched away. Our labour codes are being bounded up. They are telling us go to tribunals. So all our powers for through judiciary having our rights are also being killed. So they want to simply cut our hands. Then what for will be unions? So that's why we say what we got and fought during British period, even that is supposed to be taken away. What we fought in independent India, through our constitution, we fought on streets. Laws are not given to us even in independent India so easily by the governments, center or states. For everything we fought, with the center also, with the state governments also. So we have state legislations of laws also, which we got from state assemblies, and we have central laws. These 44 central laws, out of which 29, you see, are made into these 4 codes. Rest 15 laws, they have made them just redundant, totally inactive, finishing them off. So all central laws, this is how they are trying to kill. And now the government is trying to tell the state governments, you change your state laws as per 4 labour codes. Because we have been resisting from 2019 onwards, then 2020 when in September they brought the other 3 codes, in November 2020 we had national strike. We are continuously fighting, so they could not implement up till now. Rules could not be framed in all the states. Now the government has adopted a new tactics, and the new tactics is that Prime Minister Office and the Labour Ministry from Centre is continuously writing to the states, change the laws according to labour codes, all the state laws. This is the method they are using. I am very clear. The force which is capable of fighting on street is the labour movement. The other force which can fight on streets to safeguard their rights of cultivation as farmers and having minimum support price for their produce and having subsidies for their input, it is farmers. So farmers and workers are the 2 productive forces of the society. And they think the policies of the government are being opposed by them. If we kill their unionization process, and if we kill their movements, then we can go ahead with the policies. That is why, to gag us, to weaken us, to cripple us, to finish us, they are bringing these labour codes. So we do not have any doubts that these labour codes are totally anti-democracy, anti-constitution. You see, we got Bonus Act, we got Gratuity Act in independent India. We fought and got. We got pension after fighting. Then sector-wise also after fighting. Contract Labour Act after fighting. For construction workers, All India Law after fighting. For BD Workers Welfare Board after fighting. Which is the sector we got laws on its own? For every law, even in independent India, we had to come on the streets. How we could do it? Because we had unions. Workers had faith in the unions. So on unions' command, the workers will listen to them, and on the basis of strategy of their agitation, they will go into agitation. So the strategy of the government of India is kill the unions who mobilize the workers, come on streets, and then you can just simply implement whatever you want to implement.
Ma'am, you mentioned about the constitution. The constitution in its preamble mentions India to be a socialist country. So, do you feel that the socialist fabric of India is being challenged and India is turning into a businessman Raj, to put it in news headline?
It is the objective of preamble. Preamble says we the people of India, and what kind of community we want to build, which is sovereign, which is secular, which is democratic, which is socialist. Okay, and then we specify it. It qualifies in economy, in a social field, in cultural field, in political field, everywhere this qualifies. That way we want it. So, keeping that in mind, India started progressing a little bit as per constitution. Our governments acted as welfare state, not as a socialist state. India is not a socialist state. India is a welfare state at present. Because socialism has too much of more things to be done, which are yet not done in India. But some welfare measures for all these sections slowly and slowly to come forward. And that also constitution guaranteed for social justice to be given to certain sections. So affirmative actions were planned when you give reservations to SCs and STs. Later on OBC is added. This all was for centuries old whatever discriminations were there to end them. And it cannot end by speeches, by affirmative speakings. It has to end by policy framework and affirmative actions. So affirmative actions under this constitution, when designed by Baba Saheb Ambedkar, could be taken. So India became a welfare state. This government doesn't want it to be welfare state. That's why all social sector schemes, you see already old schemes, they give new name and they announce. They are not making new schemes. Those schemes, the funds are being reduced. So you are not enhancing welfare, you are cutting welfare. Like Manrega budget is decreasing continuously. Not only that, days of functioning are also decreasing. So all the social sector schemes are getting less funds. Whatever funds are granted in budget are not spent. When that is happening. And then the next budget you further reduce. So this government doesn't believe even in that. This government is killing the
नहीं मेरे मुंह पे फोन आ रहा है
if it's not a welfare state. They want it a theocratic state based on a particular religion. But it is not a bother about that religion. It's not based on that religion. It won't be based on Hinduism. It will be based on what RSS thinks of Hindu common. Common Hindu is a secular, is a democrat. Common Christian, common Muslim, common Sikh, a Jain, Buddhist, common citizen will definitely would like to be a good human being. Will be a secular democrat. Being working with everybody, moving ahead with everybody. Only those communalists of every region, those who have communal mind, in every region, they are the culprits. So, if among Muslims you have such elements, amongst Sikhs you had Khalistanis, you can find such people, those who say we are Christians. Same thing is with Hindus. So, this group of people which BJP represents is those communal elements. I don't call them Hindus. They are not at all Hindus. Because Hinduism believes in synthesis. Hinduism believes in moving together. Hinduism believes in harmony. You see, every religion basically wants a human being to be a good human being. No religion teaches hatred. No religion teaches polarization. No religion teaches violence. Every religion tries to teach empathy. So they want to take this country towards theocratic state. Their defined Hinduism, their defined, not Hinduism. They want to create that kind of this thing. So the mother of Mr. Narendra Modi's party, BJP, earlier named Janata Party, mother is their RSS. So Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, from the very beginning when they were founded, they did not believe in fighting British. They told our youngsters who were dying for the nation that they are desperate, knowing nothing, they are derailed, we will make these youngsters understand we have not to oppose British. This is how our Bhagat Singh and other great martyrs, who later on became martyrs, were touched by this people. And when they were asked, will you fight British colonial rule? They said, no, we have no quarrel with British colonial rule. And when they were asked, what is your objective? They said, we will make Hindu Rashtra. So this talk of Hindu Rashtra is not a today's talk. This began with the foundation of RSS in 1925. In 1925, Communist Party of India was being formed in Kanpur. And AITUC had already been formed in 1920 in Bombay. And the red flag was already popular in this country because the trade unions were carrying red flag in their hands when they were agitating. So naturally, red in the world also known as a labor movement as well as known as a communist. Isn't it? This red flag is known that way for both. So Communist Party was not born when AITUC was formed. So when AITUC was formed, all variety of political people were doing unions. They all got together in AITUC. Okay. For 25, when the Communist Party was formed, they said we will fight for India's freedom. And we would like to build an India which is free of exploitation of all kinds, social, cultural, economic. We will have a socialist society. They spoke about it. AITUC had spoken of socialism in 1921 itself. AITUC adopted its constitution in which we put socialism as our objective. So we wanted a socialist society. That's why when the Indian constitution was being framed, AITUC also submitted this chapter of demand, and we wanted socialism to be there in that. Somehow, initially, they were not this included. Later on, in amendment, these words were included. They were included, others objected, so they were removed, but then later on they were included. So, about this government, I have no doubt that they don't believe in welfare concept. Socialism is a far off dream. They keep talking of we are for workers, but they are against workers. We are for farmers, but they were against farmers. They tell we are for tribals, but they have changed the laws where our Adivasis will be thrown out of jungles. Any community, any section they say we are for them, I get afraid. Now they will be targeted. Because what they say they do just opposite. And what they sometimes don't tell, they just implement. Parliament after parliament, they have reduced the parliament's image. So our constitution, whatever our constitution speaks, they are antithesis of that. They don't believe in constitution, they want to change this constitution, but there was in 2024 elections before that, there was such a hullabaloo all over India that they will change constitution if they come into majority, so they could not come into majority. They were stuck too far. They had to form the government only with the help of Nitish Babu and Chandrababu Naidu. They did not get majority. And with this majority also they cannot change constitution. You need 3/4 votes. So they could not. But now constitution remains there, but they don't respect constitution. By making amendments in different laws, they are killing constitution. This is how. So constitution as a book should remain, but they should make changes in the laws, which whatever guarantees in constitution every citizen gets, that goes on. In constitution we have right to associations, right to unions. But they will make these labor codes which will kill our right which is there given in constitution. Okay. So one after another, we could go to section 32 straight away to High Court to challenge any government policy in any sector. They will take away that through labor codes. So my constitutional right will be taken away through labor codes. This is how the government is behaving. So government doesn't want it to remain even as a right. They say this government is against Indian constitution. We are defenders of Indian constitution.
चलो
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. There were lots of things that I didn't know. There were new to me. There were some things that I need to recheck again. And thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was wonderful. And I got to learn a lot of stuff. So thank you so much.